It's like such a common question. What was her birth weight? But for us, it was like picking at a wound. I've never been pregnant, so I was just like, maybe this is normal. An inch away from just like completely falling apart at all moments.
Dab, 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 dab. Bada boom. Hi everyone, my name is Haley Brooks and welcome to Haley's Happy Hour.
Uh-oh, Mom.
If at any point you are enjoying this video, please hit the like button below and subscribe to get notified every time a new video is posted. And let us know what you think. Leave a comment down below. In this video, we are going to chat with Colleen Farthing. She is a full-time mom of one daughter and one bonus daughter, full-time employee, and she's also a college student. We are going to talk about her daughter who was born premature. We're also going to talk about her battle with preeclampsia, but first we need a cocktail, so I'm going to show you how to make a pumpkin spice white Russian. The cocktail itself only uses 3 ingredients: vodka, rum and coffee liqueur, otherwise known as Kahlua. I don't know a generic form of Kahlua. And we also have pumpkin spice creamer. And if you feel like being fancy, which I'm gonna do today, for our rim and garnish, we are going to use graham crackers, pumpkin pie spices, and a cinnamon stick. So to start, we are going to rim our glasses and be fancy. So this recipe comes from delish.com and they lay out measurements of the rim, but I'm just gonna throw some stuff together because I'm not gonna measure my graham crackers in tablespoons or teaspoons because I don't feel like it. So I have my graham crackers, I'm gonna put them in a Ziploc baggie. I have a wooden spoon and I'm going to get all of my frustrations out from mom life on these graham crackers. So now I'm gonna add just a couple dashes of this pumpkin pie spice. Shake it up. So we're taking our rim mix. I'm gonna put it on a plate. Like I said, you're gonna take your glass. Fun fact, if you wet the rim here of your glass, it's actually gonna hold the garnish better. Dab, 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 dab. Now we're gonna put ice. So I guess technically there's 4 ingredients to the cocktail if you factor in ice. Now the recipe calls for 2 ounces of vodka, 1 ounce of Kahlua, and 1.5 ounces of the pumpkin spice creamer, but I don't have a jigger at home and I don't think many of you probably do either. So we're just gonna eyeball this out. 2 ounces of vodka.
2 shots of vodka.
One, dribble. And cream it up, cream it up. Cream, cream. We're going to stir it, stir it. Fun fact, something I learned in my years of restaurant work: if a alcohol is brown or gin, you stir it. If it's clear, you shake it, but not gin. Add cinnamon sticks and bada boom. Cheers. Now let's go meet Colleen. Colleen, thank you for so much for being here today.
Thank you.
I just want to get a little bit of your story as a mom. Tell me how many kids you have, what your daily life is like. Who is Colleen?
I have 2 kids. Oldest is my bonus daughter from my husband's first marriage, and she's 10 years old. Her name's Julia. Then I have a 16-month-old Amelia, who was born last year.
I want to talk about your birthing experience with your daughter, because you did run into some complications there. So do you want to kind of just tell me what had happened?
Sure. I remember being at work, and I remember, I don't know why I always, whenever I think about Amelia's birthing story, I come back to like being at work and like being told like, somebody dropped the ball, you have to finish this like super fast. And I'm like, okay. So I remember being like super stressed out, knowing I have a doctor's appointment, like a midwife appointment and a stress test appointment pretty soon. So I remember like going down work, like leaving, trying to work, trying to get to the 405, trying to take care of everything. I was seeing the midwives, so because I wanted this holistic birth, and the physician had told me, you see one physician during your time with the midwives, and in that visit she had told me that the baby's a little small, and ironically, like I saw the midwife immediately after, and she was like, oh, your baby's perfect, your baby's the right size. If anything, your baby's too big, and I was like, okay. But because the doctor thought the baby was too slow, looking at the ultrasound, I still went to, I started doing stress tests.
At how many weeks were you?
29 weeks.
Okay.
So in my first stress test, that's essentially where it all happened. Like the nurse was, they just monitor you for about an hour to see if any abnormalities, and the nurse recommended that I get tested for preeclampsia. And I remember getting tested, and then I went home afterwards, and I was home for like 20 minutes. And then the midwife had called me and said that she thinks I should go back to the hospital. They want to run some more tests. And I remember like bringing my clothes for work the next day, thinking I was gonna like be at the hospital, worst case spend the night, then I could like be at work tomorrow by 8 or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, it did not work that way. And then like I'm at the hospital and they're giving me like all of these drugs, and the woman says, I don't know your situation, but if you have someone that could be here with you, the thing I'm gonna give you right now is gonna make you feel horrible. Like I would have them here. They were taking my running my numbers every 3 hours, do my blood, doing all that lab work, just to monitor to make sure. Up until that point, I had been having really bad stomach pains. Like it was to the point where I couldn't sleep.
Like beyond cramps.
Yeah, but I've never been pregnant, so I was just like, maybe this is normal. Like I don't.
Right. That's the thing with your first time pregnancy. You don't know.
Yeah, you have no like, frame of reference. And I notified the midwives, and they were just like, it's just gas, drink tea. But then the baby was small, so then I started having like a high protein diet. So it was like, really for like a week and 2 weeks, it was like very strange. Like it was super bland, but high protein and a lot of tea. So that's what the midwife recommended I have.
Right.
But yeah, so then once I was at there, I just, the doctor had said she was tired of waiting because my liver was continuing to fail. And now the numbers were coming back that my kidney was also starting to fail. And it's like a weird game because you want your baby to stay there as long as possible.
Right.
But if you wait too long, then there's like irreversible damage to your organs.
Yeah.
Right? So like, and how it would work is like one by one, all of my organs would start to fail until like you die, right? So it's like
worst case scenario.
Yeah, right? And I remember telling the doctor, I remember, from like high school biology that your liver can like repair itself. Can we just like let my liver just go to where it's completely shot but keep her in there longer?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I think as a mother, you would like do anything. Because like in my
You're
head,
thinking about the baby and
yeah,
you're like me secondary.
Yeah, like at 29 weeks, I didn't know that was possible. Like,
right.
I think that's like too small for a child. Like, I was like, I don't even know what's going to happen. Like, she needs more time in me, right? Like, but she said apparently that only works, the liver only does that it only repairs itself for like alcohol patients. It wouldn't like I'm not sure. So I was like, okay.
It's strictly alcohol, nothing else.
The liver only repairs from alcohol. I was like, okay. So, but it was getting worse and worse. So they finally scheduled they said, we're just going to do the next day at 7 a.m. We're going to do your C-section. It's going to be fine. And I was like, okay. And
were you kind of upset it was a C-section at that point too? Because you're like, doing the whole midwife thing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was like totally, I was not happy about that. At first she had said that she was going to do this procedure where it's like she goes down from your belly button all the way down. So it's going to be like a pretty dominant scar. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh wow, that's not going to be cool. But she was able to do it like the horizontal way, which is a lot better. So that's like considered that's like a small victory.
Right.
Anyway, so my husband gave me a salad because she allowed me to eat since it was all scheduled. I was going to do it the following day. And then like, I don't know, from that time where she said that she scheduled my time, like my time to give birth to the time where my husband, like I just started throwing up and I felt horrible. And I was like, at that point my liver was like completely dying because I was like screaming in pain. Like it was just really bad. And the doctor said, that's it. We're just going to have to take the baby out now. Actually, I remember, I love Hamilton. I mean, most people love Hamilton.
Right.
But like that Dear Theodosia song, like when you came into the world, you cried and you broke my heart.
When you came into the world, you cried and broke my heart.
Like for me, it was like, I think about that when I hear that song, which is often because I love Hamilton. And it's like, when I heard Amelia cry, it was like such a relief because I was like, her lungs work. Like just the fact that like she was able to breathe on her own was like such a victory because like at 29 weeks, you don't know what would have happened. Anyways, but I wouldn't be able to see Amelia for 2 days after that because I was still on a bunch of medication. So then 2 days after, I got to see Amelia. And it's kind of funny because I remember telling that to someone and the person said, oh, I don't know how you were able to do that. I would never be able not to see my daughter. I would have to see her. I wouldn't be able not to see her. And I was just like...
It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that. It's not like...
Do you remember what it was like the first time you did get to see her?
Yeah, it was super special. It was super special. And I mean, if anyone is in a similar situation, the nurse was like awesome. and she had told me to, why don't we get changed first, because you don't want to see your daughter for the first time in like that one robe you've been wearing for like days.
Yeah.
So I got changed into like just like a t-shirt and like some like leggings that my husband had brought for me, and just that, like changing, like completely was able to like shift how I was thinking.
Freshen up. And you're like, okay, I got this.
And then I saw Amelia, and it was just, I mean, I thought she was beautiful. I mean, she was red and 2.5 pounds, but I thought she was beautiful.
So teeny.
Yeah, she was tiny.
Oh my gosh. How long did she stay in the NICU for?
She was in the NICU for 6 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, which is actually really good because she came home at 35 weeks. So technically, if she would have been born by the time she was, like, if she would have been born when she actually was able to come home, she would have had to been in the NICU. So yeah, she was only 4.5 pounds when she came home.
Wow.
Yeah, she was tiny.
So what was the NICU experience like? Like, obviously, like, you got discharged and sent home, right?
Yeah.
And then your daughter's still in the hospital.
Yeah.
So, like, how did you manage that?
It was, like, horrible.
I can imagine.
It's, like, so isolating, and it's, yeah, it's painful, and, like, I think everyone has their own way to cope with it, but I think, like, all the parents that are in there were, like, I think you're like an inch away from just like completely falling apart at all moments. And then in the NICU, it's just so dynamic, you know, like, oh, she's doing so well, they're decreasing her oxygen, you know, oh, she's not doing well, she's forgetting to breathe, and we're gonna have to increase her medication. Oh, she's doing so well. Like, it's such like a seesaw, like trying to monitor her health. UCLA did have like weekly meetings. It was like every 2 weeks that all the parents would get together, but it wasn't too, I just think it's really hard. Yeah, it's really isolating. I think my husband, our marriage, it really, really suffered. Like, it was really hard during that time. And then, because he just went back to work, right? Because he didn't want to take any of his like paid parental leave. So he was there with me when I was in the hospital, but he went back to work. That was really hard.
So then, when you finally did bring her home, what was that like?
I think it was like surreal. I was kind of like panicking. Like, I was like, what am I gonna do? Like, I don't know. It had become normal for me to like wake up, go to the NICU every day, spend my day there, like hold her. Like, it had become like normal, right? And so the idea that I was gonna take her home, I was like, but all these nurses are not going to be there. It's just going to be me. It was really like, anyway, she was so small, and I was like, but wait. And I think one of the most for me, looking back, one of the most painful things, and I don't think it was deliberate on anyone, but it's like such a common question, like, oh, like how much, like what was her birth weight? But for us, it was just like you were just like picking at a wound, because like she's like 2.5 pounds, you know? She actually went down to like 2 pounds at one point, because so she was just so small. So yeah, I wouldn't ask someone
how much
what their premature baby what their premature baby weighs, because it's hard,
right? And like you said, it's a fresh wound. Like, how much does your baby weigh? Not a lot.
And then we had just bought our house. I was actually the day I was actually in the hospital signing our mortgage papers. Like, it was so crazy.
Wait, you signed your mortgage papers in the hospital?
Yeah, the bank sent like a notary to like, and me and my husband were like signing off on all these. It's like 1,000 documents, it feels like, and we're just like signing them off. And
talk about stress.
I know. We almost backed out of the house deal. I was like, this is a sign we shouldn't do it.
Right.
Like, it's too stressful.
So one thing too, I wanted to talk about. You said that since so much happened when Amelia was born, that there's things you look out for now. Can you kind of tell me what that process is like?
Yeah, well, you would think our like Western medicine were like so advanced, like, or even just like medicine and science were so advanced in like so many areas, right? Like, just spectacular. But like, if you talk to like a bunch of like doctors, like Amelia's doctors, like they literally can't tell you like which babies are going to have long-term developmental issues and which babies are not. Like, they have no idea. Like, right? And I saw that's kind of frightening. But they do have like stats. They do have like numbers you can look at. So based on Amelia's, when she was born, there's like a 15% chance she's going to have like a long-term developmental issue.
And these are numbers that you had to go find yourself, right?
Oh yeah, one I like spent hours. Yeah, and then it's actually like the reverse could happen, because like you read, like I read, like you read papers and it's like, oh, there was one paper like premature babies have lower IQs overall. Like you can find any paper, so it's like you have to be really careful,
right?
Because you can go crazy. I try to ensure that my daughter has every opportunity to thrive. She has a very robust schedule for a 16-month-old. Art class on Wednesdays, music class 3 times a week, French immersion classes on Saturdays, and she has swimming lessons on Saturdays as well.
So then your bonus daughter, Julia, when you brought the newborn home, what was that? Was she excited? Like, was there a little bit of jealousy when she would be there, or how did that end up working out?
She is probably Amelia's like biggest advocate, I would say. Like, she is like 100% team Amelia. Like, she is like so obsessed. They're obsessed with each other. So
Aww.
Yeah, I think they have a really spectacular relationship. Like, I think it was just this past weekend, my husband was supposed to put her to bed, my daughter to bed. And then Julia was like, she kind of like, can I put her to bed? Can I put her to bed? And my husband's like, okay, sure. And then I go in, I'm like, Julia, do you want me to put her to bed? Because I'm like, she's 10 and she should be having to put away the baby to bed. And then she's like, no, don't, I got this. She'll like seek any opportunity to like hold Amelia and to put her to bed. And
that's amazing. It's like free help,
like
child labor.
But yeah, I think she really does have a good relationship with Amelia. I've always been very deliberate to be like nonpartisan or like completely not biased. So like I registered Amelia for something, then I'll check in if Julia wants the same thing. Or if I do something for one, I'll do something for the other, right? So I always try to be, I think that's hard, but I think you just have to be very cautious of it, because you don't want to build that resentment, and you don't want to build that like, you don't want, I never wanted Julia to feel like, well, now I'm part of my dad's old family, so I matter less,
right?
You know? So you always have to, I think you have to make a deliberate effort to be equal.
Like, you do have a stepdaughter as well as your daughter. So, I mean, your stepdaughter's 10 years old, right? So she was in the picture before your daughter. So what was that like when you were first introduced to her and, like, you know, trying to, like, bring her in as your own? Was there any, like, bumps along the way, or was it smooth sailing?
It was very bumpy. I'll say that. Not so much with Julia. I think her and I have always had this, like, wonderful relationship. And I used to work with, I've worked with children a lot, like when I was in college. And one thing they told me is that kids know whether you care about them or whether you really don't care about them.
Yeah.
Like, it's like intuitive, they have that sense. So I think you just being genuine and authentic and honest kind of works well with kids. The ex-wife was really hard because, it was just really, really hard. And it's still hard sometimes. Like, we just got into this big, I won't say big, but this discussion whether we should have the flu vaccine or no flu vaccine. And I don't know, I feel like in our current climate, flu vaccine seems like common sense.
Right.
But Julia's not getting the flu vaccine because the other parent does not want the flu vaccine. So like, you just have to like go back and forth and try to make these like small decisions and what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And what's worth it and what's not worth it.
Right, you gotta pick and choose your battles. Yeah.
It's a really fine line. It's like, it's almost like an invisible line, but it's there. It's like really hard, because it's just really hard. And I think when you have like someone like Julia, like you love them like they're your own daughter, and you treat them as they're your own daughter, but at the end of the day, she's not. And you really have like no vote on anything, right? But like on on Amelia, you have that full autonomy and you have that like decision to make. But my husband's really good. I think the husband has to be on the same board with you, like just setting those boundaries. So I think like you would need your partner at that point, because there are things that would probably be okay for Julia but are no longer okay for Amelia. And you have to like make those clear distinctions yourself, and then your partner has to like be on board to like support your decision.
But you are a working mom, right? Do you work full-time? Do you work part-time?
I do work full-time, yeah.
Full-time. Can you tell me what it's like being a full-time, mom and a full-time employee?
Yeah, when I first started working, I would get frustrated because people, I know this may not sound, but I would get annoyed because like people with kids would always be taking days off, would always be taking half days. And I'm just like, can I have a kid so I can take a half day? Like, but now that I'm in that position and I do that myself, like all the time, like, hey, I have to leave early, we have a doctor's appointment. Hey, I have to leave early, we have this.
Yeah.
Like, I understand that like our society is like not designed for like mothers and like to parent and to like be with your children. Like, it is not designed. Like,
Right.
for the first 2 years, you have like a ridiculous number of doctor's appointments, and you don't even have like enough vacation days to take your kids to the
To
appointments,
the doctors,
right? Yeah.
which they need to go to.
Yeah, and there's no like childcare under from 0 to like 5. So our entire society is just not built for children. So I think that's hard because it's like so ingrained. And then I work with all men, so that's also hard because
They don't get it.
Yeah,
It's
and-
not their fault, they just don't get it.
and you want to be that person that like is at the same par or even better than like all the other guys that you are working with, right? But at the same time, you want to be a good mom,
Right.
you know? So it's really hard.
It's a hard line to walk.
Yeah, I actually took a pay cut and a demotion to have a job that's more flexible, which I may regret in 10 years, but we'll see.
But right now, it's what's best for your family. So.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking, and we'll see. But it was a great. I mean, it was a great opportunity when I left, and I loved where I was working, and it was awesome people, and it was super engaging, interesting work, and there was no template to how to do your job. You know, you just had to wake up and say, what do I need to do now, right? And having that type of autonomy and control for me was like exciting because you get to like
Right.
really solve the problems. And then in this job, it's a little different, but it's also very enjoyable. And it's like trying to do what's best for your family.
So you work full time.
Yeah.
You're a mom, and you're going to school.
Yeah.
Do you stop?
Well, my thought process was I really want to be like that super obnoxious mom that's like is in charge of all the PTA meetings and like bakes the things.
What ingredients can we use?
Anyway, I will be putting together a special bake sale police
So
force.
I thought to myself, if I want to get my master's, like I need to do it before she starts kindergarten, or else I'm gonna
Before I'm president of the PTA.
essentially, yeah. So like, I need to like do it now. So that's what I'm working towards. So I gave myself like 4 years to do it. So it's not going to be, but yeah, it's super hard also because like you're studying while she's sleeping, and then you feel so guilty like when you need to study for midterms or finals. Like you just feel like so horrible about it.
Do you ever get mom guilt? Like you feel like maybe you're paying too much attention to school or work instead of Amelia or even Julia?
Well, I do, but I heard a quote one time by like some female author, and I thought it was really good. She said that there are 2 types of balls that you're always balancing as a mother, and some balls. Have you heard this?
Yeah, well,
So some balls are made out of like
Like what's
glass.
more fragile?
Yeah, and some balls are made out of like plastic. So you can drop the plastic ones, just don't drop the glass ones. And I thought I thought that was really good because there are some things that for work I would need to like really be there and make sure I get my job done. But then there are some things for like Amelia that I need to make sure that I'm there and I keep on track of. Then there's some things for Julia, there's some things for Dan, my husband. So yeah, just trying to balance it.
Colleen is an amazing mama, and if you can relate to anything she has said or have a similar story, leave a comment down below. We would love to hear from you. To hear other stories from incredible women, make sure to subscribe to Haley's Happy Hour. That way you get notified every time a new video is posted. Also, check out some of these other videos, and if you have a story you'd like to share, comment below or head over to Facebook or Instagram at Haley's Happy Hour. Send me a message. I would love to share your story. Cheers!